Welcome back to my kitchen. I'm Chrissy from Up the Windy Lane. Today we're going to talk about kitchen herbs, and we're going to talk about how to store them, where to store them, and how long to keep them. If your kitchen herb area looks anything like mine, it's probably kind of a mess. These are my kitchen herbs, I would say. I have another pantry for this as well. I'm going to show you just in a second. I need to go through these because some of these are probably older and they need to be checked for efficacy. They need to be checked for, if they're still good. So we're going to do that. We're going to pick a few and we're going to go over them. So in here in the pantry, this is my other area that I have some herbs that I use more in bulk, like this paprika. We use a lot of paprika. I've got cumin and cinnamon and garlic, onion powder. I buy those in bulk from As Your Standard, so I put them in these jars to keep them fresher, and then they're also in here, which keeps the light out. So that brings me to the first tip is where to store them would be in a dark, cool place. So in a dark place that's not going to have a lot of temperature fluctuation. So a lot of people store their herbs above their stove, or maybe in the cabinet above their stove because it's easy to access. Well, that may not be the best place because the temperature from your stove will go up, and it rises, so it's going to cause heat fluctuation up there, temperature fluctuation, which is not best on herbs, will actually decrease the life of your herbs. So it's best to store them somewhere else. I store them in a corner cabinet beside my stove, so while it's still easily accessed, it's not directly above, so those temperatures do not fluctuate as bad. Now, the only thing about where my corner cabinet is it is on an outside wall. So again, that does fluctuate a little bit. So in the cold, like in winter, this wall behind me is really cold. Then in the summer, it's warmer. So there is some temperature fluctuation in here. So the ideal place would be a dark place on an inside wall, not above your stove. So like in my pantry, in that cabinet, it's on an inside wall, it's in a dark place. That room in there stays pretty cool because it has my canning in it, and I like to keep it like that because it helps preserve those and keeps them good longer as well. So that would be the ideal place, on an inside wall, in a cabinet, dark place, etc. So that is where to store them. All right, let's talk a little bit about how to store them to keep the best herbs you can and help to keep them the longest. So when you buy herbs from the store, sometimes they'll come in glass jars like these. Sometimes they come in plastic like these. And then sometimes they come in tins like these. So while all these are, I guess you could say, good options, this one is my favorite. This is the best option, is the glass option. And then I'm going to say that this is just my personal preference. This would be the next, the tin, and plastic would be my least favorite. I'm trying to go away from that just because of the plastics. When I buy things from the store, I do like to buy them in glass containers just because that seems to keep everything a little bit fresher and it stores much better. Plus, I can reuse these like I did with my cinnamon. Because I buy my cinnamon in bulk, I saved this and took the label off, and I repurposed it for my cinnamon. So now I have this cinnamon, that I can use in the kitchen. It has my little shaker top on top of it, and it's much easier than going out to the pantry, grabbing the cinnamon, getting a spoon, etc. So this is much easier and really great to repurpose these herb containers that I buy from the store. And then, of course, my other favorite way to store them is in glass, but in mason jars. And so you can see these are in mason jars. Now, really, I prefer these lids to these lids because these are plastic, and I find that these, especially for my freeze-dried vegetables, fruits, and stuff, these keep it fresher longer than these because these seem to seal better than these do because of the plastic. I still think there is some, I don't know what you would call, leakage or whatever through the plastic. So these I do prefer. You can see I do have some plastic tops in here that I haven't changed out yet. But this is my preferred way, especially if you buy herbs in bulk. But I'm just remember that if you do buy herbs in bulk, which is just going to go along with our next one, that you buy only what you're going to use within a certain amount of time. And we're going to go over that in just a minute. So next, let's talk about how long to keep them and when to get rid of them and compost them. So this is ground coriander that is in a glass jar, and I've had it for quite a while. So this says that the actual expiration is January 15th, 2021, sell by. So this probably needs to be composted, but a good way to figure out if it does need to be would be to open it, smell it, even taste of it to see. Now today I'm not going to be smelling because of, my nasal polyps and all that, and I actually have no sense of smell right now. So that doesn't really help me out with my spice cabinet. This would be one that I would definitely flag and check, because more than likely this is going to need to be composted. As I'm looking at my spice cabinet, I can tell that I really need to go through them because I have quite a few in there that are expired, or the best by date is been quite a bit ago. I'm almost embarrassed to show you that because I cannot believe how long some of these have been in there, like multiple years. So it's really a good idea, probably once a year, to pick a certain month or day and go through your spice cabinet, organize, figure out what needs to go, write down what you need to get, and so forth. Because some of these in here I bought for like one thing, and I use them occasionally for that one thing. And so they've been in there for quite a while, and I don't really need them. And so they have been in there for quite a while and probably need to be composted. So a good rule of thumb for, say, herbs you buy in bulk would be ground herbs like this ground coriander would be that they will stay fresh for 6 months to a year. So, say I have my cinnamon here, then I would need to mark on this the date that it expires, or, well, that would actually probably be better. Just keeping in mind that this cinnamon, from the time it is harvested and shipped to the time it is ground and shipped to the store or Azure or what, there is a little bit of the time in that as well. So part of that is going to be factored into the expiration. So just keeping that in mind. But I would mark this about a year, and that way, well, I would definitely check it within a year if I set up a schedule to check my spice cabinet, and then I would know that it was good or not just by maybe the smell or taste, or sometimes the look of the herb. Now the other one is, instead of ground, you have the actual spice in its more like leaf form and so forth that is dried. This one is easier to see on, say, look, if you compare this one with fresh. So this is dried thyme leaves, and if I were to compare this to fresh, it would probably look a little dull because this expiration is actually February of 19. So as you can see, I have had these for a little longer than necessary. But the only problem is I do buy thyme in bulk, so I may have refilled this. And if that is the case, I definitely need to mark on it when I did that. But this is just another case. So this would be for a year or two. So herbs that are not ground and they're in more of their original, bigger pieces would stay good, as a rule of thumb, 1 to 2 years. So you could mark, the expiration date to 2 years. And then if you're checking your spice cabinet every year, you would know by looking at these, tasting them, smelling them, and so forth. And if you're like me and you like to buy herbs, then you definitely need to use them. So this is oregano, and I had 2 big jars of this. So I decided, because I've had it for a little while, I decided to go ahead and use a lot of it. So this is all I have left right now because I used some in oregano oil. I have been adding it to soups. I've been adding it to just about anything I can, a little extra, because it's good for you. Especially during this cold flu season, when, there's just a lot of stuff going around. It's good to add those extra herbs to soups And well, you could add it to scrambled eggs. There's all kinds of things you can add it to. So just be sure that you're adding and using those herbs, especially if you know they're going to be expiring soon. If you've noticed, you know, maybe you go through your cabinet and you notice you've got some that are probably not going to be good much longer. Go ahead and find a recipe to use them. Infuse them in honey, make simple syrups, use them, you know, make up some teas and maybe freeze them in ice cubes. There's lots of different ways that you can use them up so that you're not necessarily composting all of them, which is always a good option as well. But I would much rather be using what I bought than having to compost it. I almost forgot. Be looking this week for a recipe that you can actually use some of those herbs in if you are near expiration or you just want to make it. And it's a good one. It is an herbal spice cold cough syrup. So I hope these tips were helpful in going through your kitchen spice cabinet. Be sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to be lovely lights today.